Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Goeienaand, mensen van die Kaapse vlakte en Cape Flats International. Hope het gaat goed samen met julle. Hope you guys are well. I just want to brag before we start the show. I want to say thank you to a very good friend of ours, Zunaid Baba. He owns a business called Snap Digital. So he sponsored me with his t-shirt and then also he made us mugs. So you better support us. This is for a good cause. So go and follow Snap Digital. He's on all the platforms, Instagram, I think TikTok as well, and Facebook. Please give him a like. It's guys like this that makes our podcast possible, and we want to support him. So support Snap Digital. But I want to talk about the week that was. Kykie, dan net gebeur, especially today. I'm so upset about SASSA. And I'm blaming not only the government, the ANC, I'm blaming everybody that's part of the GNU. This should have been overseen. There should have been the DA, the City of Cape Town should have make sure that these things were set up properly. So people are standing in queues for hours, in long queues. Remember, our grandparents and mothers and fathers are dependent of the money that they get from SASSA, right? So now if they're going to stand in the queue for their money for hours, and maybe they're only getting, because they're supposed to get the black card from what I understand. So the black card is going to take time for them to actually get it. Now the other problem is this, Mitchell's Plain is moersgroot, it's big. You want to give 1 point to Mitchell's Plain, right? To go and register themselves, the elderly folks. But now the problem is this. Every year, the DA and the ANC goes to Mitchell's Plain to go get votes. They know how big Mitchell's Plain is, but they don't know how big Mitchell's Plain is when it comes to issues. So I want to blame each and every one. And the ward councillors should take action. They should be proactive. There's a word called proactive where you make sure things are sorted out before it fails. It's called preventative maintenance. So this whole thing could have been addressed, but you guys were sleeping. So these people that's now struggling to get their cards voted for you into place and you disappointed them. So I want to say this. Yeah, that's a klomp kakke, and I'm being honest with you. Because that grandmother and that grandfather is going to worry about their money for tomorrow. And you guys are going to sit in your big, nice houses, in your nice cars, and these people are going to worry about where I'm going to get my food tomorrow. So yeah, I said what I said. And then, julle mense wat so Afriforum mal is, I want to be very honest here also. I am all about South Africa. I'm going nowhere. Yes, we were forcefully removed from Constantia, and many of you white people out there say, yeah, but was it for julle? No, we were forcefully removed, and we had to make peace with that. That's why we are on the Cape Flats. The Cape Flats was birthed because of people that threw us here. My mother was heartbroken when she died because she couldn't go back to Constantia because of guys that thought they were evil and they owned this place. And many people are saying, yeah, but you guys didn't own the land. No, there's proof. But you know what? Government is waiting for our people to die so that we can't claim our property. So I'm a bit fumigated, not fumigated, because it's moeren, man, om het so te sê, because our people have been lied to again. So Donald Trump, he's not that quiet. Many of you people might think, yes, and I want to say this to the believers, the Christians, he's going to save Israel and all those type of things. You know what? You guys need to read the Bible properly. You guys need to know what's happening. We are products of marginalization. And these guys are they're actually feeding on the things that hurts people because they are not human, they are evil. So do your research. Go see what's happening out there in the bigger world. And then before you say, white people, there's a lot of white people that's living good lives here in South Africa. They're living amazing lives. It's us that has been marginalized for years and many others that is actually eating from, the scraps on the table. We have to wake up every morning and we have to make sure that we, make life going for us. So yeah, I'm a bit upset, but yeah, there is it. But tonight, let's just leave it there. Tonight, we're going to talk about love. Love is in the air. The 14th is Valentine's Day. And for all the uncles out there, julle kan nie meer julle vrouens uitvat met 'n jerry curly. We are now in 2025. We need to get a fader or sny alles af, but we can't live in the past anymore. So the love doctor is in the studio, and she's gonna give you guys some tips. And the ladies, please do send us your request. If you have a boyfriend that you're smart, auntie, send us your request, hoe bou ek vir hom, and we're gonna answer it. In the studio tonight is a good friend of mine. Her name is Faatin Bux. Faatin, welcome to Cape Flats Stories.
Thank you, Stan. That was a huge introduction. Love doctor.
You are
a little
love
bit out
doctor.
of my depth with love doctor, but okay, let's do our best. So this obviously started a few weeks ago when we went walking, and we discussed relationships on all levels, not just in the relationship. And so, yeah, so that was the birth of this conversation. Are you just going to field questions or?
We were supposed to talk about business,
Yes.
but then, we spoke about relationships. And I mean, we almost walked for more than 10 kilometers. And we just spoke about relationships. And I said to you, you know what? We had a nice conversation. And this is what the whole world needs to hear.
Yeah.
So, before we start,
Mm-hmm.
wie is Faatin Bux? Who is Faatin Bux?
So how long do you have?
We have an hour.
Faatin Bux. Okay, so I wear multiple hats. I'm a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
I have been through the ringer as a human being on this planet. There have been lots of things that have happened, particularly in the relationship space with me, which is why I feel it qualifies me to speak on this topic. Like I said, I've been an entrepreneur. I'm a mum. I'm a wife. I'm embedded in a really amazing family. Gosh, what else would you like? Award-winning entrepreneur, incidentally.
Awesome.
So, and just recently started up a new company. So, lots going on. Beekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
That was a surprise last year. Became a beekeeper. Very new to that space. Sourdough sisters, what I like to throw out there some of the time. And you know about my microbrewery in terms of kombucha. So, all of that is a whole bunch of skills, but ultimately, I think I am a human being who is a stand for family. And I'm a stand for people being the very best that they can be. And so everything that I tackle to do, and my most recent brand is called Make Everything Beautiful. And essentially, that is for us, the team, right now it's just my family and myself. For us, it means infusing beauty in absolutely everything that we do, whether it is our physical selves, our insides in and out, but our spiritual selves, our relationship and our home selves, all of that, even professionally, is to make every aspect of our lives beautiful regardless of the circumstances. And I believe that that is possible for everybody. And it essentially is a choice.
And you just have to work on it in all.
Well, working on it, but more than work on it, because sometimes people tend to think that, but that's a lot. I think if you get into the mindset of what is possible, and you think, okay, so if making my life beautiful or following my bliss is this for me, what can I put in place in order to inch closer to that on a day-to-day basis? And even financially. So initially when I started my company, that was the first thing I needed to sort out, was making my finances beautiful. Yes. But that's a topic for another day.
Yes, and it's very difficult. It's a very difficult topic, but we're going to come there.
Yeah.
I want to, tonight is be focusing on relationships.
Yes.
Right? The love of this year, all right? And we're going to talk about everything. We're going to alles praat. Let's start with the question, Faatin, what is a perfect relationship? Is there such a thing as a perfect relationship?
No.
Okay.
There is no such thing as a perfect relationship. I think it is bespoke to the two people involved and then the extended family that supports those people. And then, of course, what those two people create for their offspring and their extended offspring, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So perfection is exhausting. You both come as flawed human beings. And you come from flawed human beings. Most of us walk into any given relationship, whether business or otherwise, with a whole lot of baggage. And you bring your whole self every single day. Most people say, leave your baggage at the door. That's near impossible for most human beings because we are human.
Correct.
There's no ways you can separate your spiritual, physical, mental, financial self and leave it anywhere at the door or in any given box at any given point in time. You have to be super self-aware in order to be able to do that. So at the most part, I would say bring your best self, bring your highest self, and require that of the other person too.
I feel sometimes, Faatin, that in a relationship, people get into a relationship with an idea of a perfect person. And I think when we were young, it was obviously our way because our parents taught us, you're going to marry this guy and you're going to be with this guy or with this woman and you guys are going to live happily ever after. But what we didn't know is there's a lot of work that goes into a relationship. And I think that is what we must you're going to you are supposed to spend the rest of your life with this individual, for better, for worse, right? But some people, I call it a cell phone contract. Some people have a cell phone contract, 24 months. It is what it is. It doesn't work out. And, and then they divorce. But I want to come to divorce later on. But I want to say about the question is, how do we know, how do we tell ourselves this is what we need to work on? How do we evaluate our relationship, and how do we sit down with one another? Because this is a relationship, and it goes both ways. Both partners is supposed to be part of the relationship. It shouldn't be a one-way thing. How do we communicate with one another?
Oh wow. Okay. So let's start all the way back. And let's go to first principles, okay? When you engage in a relationship, when you communicate what it is that you want from that relationship, or you've envisioned something, whether a fairy tale or otherwise, and you have this idea in your mind as to what a relationship can be or should be, throw it all out the window. And then engage with that person in terms of what they envisioned it could be, and recreate something entirely different. Because I think what we're often bogged down with is Disney and Hollywood and Bollywood have done a great deal to skew our minds in this space.
Yeah, especially
Where you
Bollywood.
like Shah Rukh Khan,
Yes.
all that running around trees and nonsense. Yeah. So your idea of romance and a relationship and how couples, how you wish to communicate with your loved one, and mine are entirely different. When you come face to face, I wish sometimes couples would treat a relationship like a business. I really wish they would come transactional. Now that sounds cold, and to some degree it is, but you need to be in order to remain sober. Because the moment you infuse emotion into that space, the emotion is the spice of it all, right? That we can indulge in and enjoy later on. But in the beginning, the families and the couple themselves need to come together and say, what does this look like 70 years from now? And if anything goes amiss, how do we wish to part from one another? The Bible and the Quran gives us a lot of guidance in that respect. When you come together in grace. When you part gracefully. So for me, I think there's no perfection. How do you communicate with one another? You communicate bluntly. You spell it out. Often women say men are so stupid because they don't actually get what I'm trying to say. He's not going to read your mind, boo-boo. No. You're going to have to tell him. Baby, I need you to remember that when I leave home or I come home, I can't communicate with you immediately. I first need my shower. I need to debrief. Honey, when you want to be intimate with me, can you please first ensure that you've gone and taken a bath? Baby, when you want to speak to me, I need you to use the following tone because it sounds disrespectful when you say it this way. And when you come to one another in that level of safe space, I think that then you can create magic. But you can't come with your ego and your triggers from way back when. This poor person sitting in front of you now is busy paying for all the sins of everybody who hurt you before. And you talk about cell phone contracts. I've had my cell phone contract relationship. It was about all of 5 minutes. I've had my 7-year relationship, more like 7 years of bad luck. And fortunately now I've created something uber magical with my current husband. Now, as a good Muslim girl growing on the Cape Flats, I never, ever thought I would use the word current and husband in one sentence. Ever. Because as a 23-year-old self, when I married my first husband, there was no ways that was ever going to end up in divorce. It's just not what we spoke about, and it's not what you aim for. But at 23, what did I know? And what did my parents know of his family? And what did my parents evaluate of him and his family? And what did his family evaluate of me and my family? Our parents are more worried about us falling pregnant and doing stupid things like that, as opposed to actually thinking, hold on, this is lifelong partnership. And I'll always cite my father when he said, a partner will make or break you. I've been broken 2 times. And Alhamdulillah, I believe that I am being made now.
Mm. 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 And the thing that you've mentioned, we can track now back, but you said something is that people break up. Sometimes a relationship is not compatible, and we need to be honest. But we need to path this in a graceful manner. Many people feel after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years of a relationship or marriage that they're gonna block one another without saying we are done now. We're just gonna block one another and it's over. I think that speaks of, for me, of a narcissistic behavior. Because if it didn't work out, it's fine. But we are matured. We've been together for 6, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. And for you just to walk away with blocking me and just say, but it didn't work out. And I told you 7 years ago it didn't work out. Why did you keep me then? Why did you keep me for the remainder of the, if we've been out for 10 years, but for 7 years you've been struggling with me, why did you keep me for the last 3 years? Why didn't you let me go 7 years ago or 3 years ago? And I think the thing is this, is that when we do both, we need to have a relationship where we can say, okay, it didn't work out, but I wish you all the best. Instead of just leaving the person and it's over and it's done.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that type of relationships needs to be looked at, and or way of departure should be looked at, and it should be dealt with more humanized. Because you're breaking the next person. You can break the person by just leaving them and just moving.
Yeah. This example is close to home for me. And so I'll out myself in a separate space. So it's not an intimate space, but it was a friendship space. And it lasted for a very long time. Now, had I been honest, I would have probably, or had I not been dealing with so much on my own, I would have been aware that that relationship should have ended 3 years in, at least. Okay? Yeah. Unfortunately, it went on for longer because not only were her and I not living in the same city, but so you're not out of sight, out of mind. If you're not living in the same city, although you're communicating all the time, if somebody's not living with you in your intimate space, you won't necessarily pick up on certain nuances of their behavior or your own in response to their behavior. And I said goodbye to that friendship in November of last year.
Okay.
Now, that went on for 10 years. And I think part of the myth of relationship is people think that longevity indicates success. It never does. The quality of a relationship is based in the quality of the interactions and whether or not on a day-to-day basis, sometimes minute to minute, depending on if the couple is in crisis, they are thriving regardless. And so in that instance, I said goodbye to this particular friend. And she was, incidentally, according to her, shocked and not shocked. I don't know how to decipher that, but from her perspective, so in this case, I would be the narcissist, right? Because how did I let it go on for so long? How is it that I never noticed that this was not a friendship I would want to carry on into my 70s? And so all I can say to you with that is, when we know everything.
I didn't catch that. Could you try?
You shouldn't have, because I haven't said it yet. So when you know everything, you will forgive everything. So in this instance, from my vantage point, I'm going, you know what? Had I known everything about how I was going to respond, obviously I would have wanted to savor the heartache. And I don't think people purposefully, because I believe in people's inherent good, I don't think they purposefully drag something on and stay in a stuck the mud situation somewhere just to make the other person miserable.
Yeah.
It's never really that of it's not that level of malicious intent, because some of those years are good and some of those days are bad, whatever. But when you come to the conclusion that this has now ended, you need to then in that moment, because now you know, right? And now you've had enough indication that you know this is not going to go anywhere, to then be gracious enough to end it as honestly as you can. And sometimes it means, in my instance, I didn't need to go over all of her inflictions in the relationship. At this point, because I'd already decided to move on, it wasn't relevant. So sometimes you need to find your own conclusion and you need to honor that conclusion. It's the same in relationship. You may have sat there for 10, 15, 20 years and maybe you just weren't uncomfortable enough until the point when you were. But if it was malicious intent, the other person would have felt it along the way. Think about it. If the other person were abusive, or in this instance, if I were abusive as a friend, she would have already experienced confusion.
Correct.
She would have already experienced pummeling. She would have already experienced feeling awful in my presence.
Yeah.
But it was never that until it came to an end. So it's the same in a relationship. I think if we are willing to understand and evaluate the other person, not from their behavior, but also from their intention, like we do ourselves, because as human beings, we have a tendency to rather evaluate everybody else based on what they did,
Correct.
how they pummeled me, what they said, etc., etc., and then I become the victim. We're very, very quick to assume the victim cloak. And that is the most disempowering space to occupy in a relationship, whether in business or intimate relation. Okay.
When do you know it's time to get divorced or like a talak? When do you know it's time now? We had enough. Some people stay in a relationship, especially if I look at some of my family members, they've been fighting. They've been it has been war for the last 20 years, and we like some people believe because of religion, for better for worse, and the woman must be submissive to the man. We believe all those things because it's what the Quran tells us. But I think we also must understand it. When a man abuses you, when a man hits you, when a man abuses you financially, it is not love anymore. It's an abusive relationship. So when do we say, and I mean, I see this always on the Cape Flats where a woman will stay in a relationship, and in some cases a man as well, because some women will take the husband's salary and you have no say. But when do we say enough is enough? Ek gaan nou skei.
So that particular endpoint is different for everybody. And it's different for everybody based on your upbringing. It's based on your belief system. It's based on how much chutzpah or how much of a thick skin you actually have to stay in that scenario. So what I would, or what I always encourage the people who come and approach me for relationship guidance or some kind of solution is, how uncomfortable are you? Is it to the point where your health is affected? Is it to the point where your mental health is affected? Has your finances gone down the drain because potentially the partner is a drug addict or gambler or is now just withholding the credit cards? What's going on? What level of abuse is actually present? Because if you are in an abusive scenario, then possibilities are not actually possible, right? You can't create out of a space of negativity, that level of negativity, abusive levels of negativity. And again, it comes all the way back to, what did we agree upon at the beginning? What did we agree was going to be our deal breakers? For some women, it's infidelity. For other women, you could have 5 side chicks, but she'll absolutely leave you if you drop the bag.
Yes.
If you don't earn the money anymore. You need to know those things up front. What is your exit clause, and what activates that exit clause? It's exactly the same. And again, I'm going to say, I wish our families would operate like businesses do. Have your family meetings. Make sure that you're creating the culture that you want for the family. I met a wonderful woman years ago. She was 80 years old when she'd written her first book.
Wow.
It was called Save the Last Dance. Something like that. I think her surname was Ndlovu. And at the back of the book, she had written the manifesto. So when her and her husband engaged for the first time, and they knew that they felt a little something for one another, they literally created a vision and a mission for the family and the future family. So at this point, they were like 25 at most.
Okay.
Because if she was 80, she was probably of the generation that got married a bit younger.
Okay.
It still happens, but it was more common then. And they literally sat down and very smartly said, our family's values are the following. These are the things that we'll hold dear. Education was going to be important to the two of them, and it was going to be something that they would impart to their children and beyond. So it became, and it wasn't a surprise that this 80-year-old was launching her book and all her grandchildren and children were sitting there.
Wow.
The husband had since passed. But in the back of the book was this manifesto, and I looked at it and I went, oh my goodness, that's where the magic lies. Because they committed to it in writing.
Yes.
And they reminded one another of this big vision every single time they butted heads. Sometimes it was a small butting of their heads, it was petty nonsense, and other times it was bigger things. But if they could, amidst the bigger things, because life's tragedies does happen, right?
Correct.
But amidst those tragedies, they could still create magic and possibility and still get starry-eyed with one another. Then there's something there to salvage.
Definitely.
But if you're constantly fighting with one another and you're waking up in the morning and you're going, why are you here again? Or why am I still staying here? Like, come on. Then at some point you're going to have the honest conversation to say, I don't want to see your face anymore. I'm irked by you. There is something irksome about you. It can't get it out of my skin. And maybe then is to first look at yourself and go, where did you bring the irksome from? Because the irksome came from you,
It
right?
doesn't come from me.
I mean, as much as I engaged with my second husband for 5 minutes, I brought a great deal of irksome into that. I mean, if I look at myself now, the woman I was engaged with him during those 5 minutes, I call it 5 minutes, it was a little bit longer. It was longer.
It was an hour.
I mean, let's face it, the MJC would take longer than that to give me a talak. However, I brought a great deal of my own ego into that. And for all intents and purposes, this is a nice guy. You know, he's a good guy. But not long term. And I would have known that had I taken my time. Sometimes our elders force us into situations because you don't want it to be haram. Mostly that's in the Muslim community. They don't allow you to take your time. You must do your due diligence. A nikah, after all, is a contract. And then biblically, you leave your family to cleave to your partner.
Correct.
Do you want your kid cleaving to somebody who has character flaws and you've not taken the time to evaluate them? It all starts with first principles. It starts right there at the beginning during the courtship. The village was there and they were all just looking forward to the bloody wedding day. And then beyond the wedding day, were they supportive then? And heaven forbid if there was a divorce to happen, then the village is completely gone. Then you don't see them. Then
You're on your own.
then you're like, but I need your help now with the lawyer's fees maybe, or I need your help to take me in while my kids are now getting settled, or even the guy, if he leaves the home or he stays in the home, whatever sort of, then the village is gone. It takes the village to support you as much then as they did on that wedding day.
Exactly. And the thing is this, is that, like you say, nobody wants to get married to get
You
divorced.
don't get married to get
You
divorced.
get married because that's going to be your life partner. But also what you're saying, some parents rush their children into that position. I mean, it takes time. Some people feel, okay, after 6 months we can get married. Some people feel after 6 years to 10 years, now we can get married.
Yes.
It differs because some people, like you say, some people have flaws. I might be an introvert, but you might fall in love with me or whoever. And for that reason, you're going to take time to get to know me. So there's different characteristics that plays there.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. You mentioned something about the side chick. Somebody said to me a few weeks ago, you know, Stan, when a man has an affair, it's okay. That's what he said. But when a woman has an affair, it means it's over. So when a man has an affair, the woman will forgive him and she'll get back to him. But when the woman has an affair, the man won't actually go back because he knows it's over because the other man slept with her. But the thing is, shouldn't it be on both sides the same, because both is having an affair? So it doesn't make the one's affair better than an affair is an affair.
So there are multiple ways to tackle this one,
Okay.
right? So first off, there are some couples okay to be in open relationship. So in that instance, they have an agreement up front. Now, let's put morality aside, rights and wrongs aside. Sometimes that works for some people. Because they just don't buy into what they perceive as the fallacy of monogamy. Okay? They say that's a fairy tale. Why is it a fairy tale? Because way back when our grandparents were in relationship with one another, they didn't just have one another. They had the aunties and the uncles, and they had the sisters and the brothers, all taking care of this big village that you are now creating, in terms of also just your own little family. So that whole village took care of all of your needs. Whereas now, you and I engage in a relationship and you become my everything. So there are people who believe that that's not possible. And so it's a wonderful pipe dream, but can you please be more realistic? So they choose other intimate partners. So let's put that aside, right? So there are people who engage in that. Then there are those of us who are very traditional still, and we believe in the fairy tale, and monogamy is it. Particularly also when you add the layer of religion. So now we believe in monogamy, and this is it. But so men and women perceive monogamy differently. They're monogamous one person at a time. And then if you have the proclivity to cheat, first of all, you'll be a perpetual cheater. Like at some point, unless you deal with your own ego and the triggers for the cheating, maybe you saw your father do it, your mother do it, whatever, you will perpetually do it until you break your own cycle. Now, men cheat for various reasons, and you can speak to that. I don't know all the reasons men do it.
I don't know.
Okay. but there's sometimes it's just because they're greedy. They like a skirt, whatever. It's not always emotional. Women cheat more often than not for emotional reasons. Her husband hasn't been giving her attention, and so she likes the attention of someone else, whatever. But ultimately, they're both human beings. And human beings like variety. We're kind of fueled by, and especially the affirmation that comes from other people. So I think sometimes men underestimate that there are women fully capable of cheating, and not for emotional reasons, purely for sexual reasons. And so that's almost hard for a man to fathom, because if I can do it for sexual reasons, I know that I'm doing it for the ego and all of that. How is it possible that my woman could be the same? And that sometimes is the case. So it becomes a bit of a surprise. I don't know if I just answered your question.
You answered my question.
But cheating is an integrity issue. Because I actually heard an imam on TikTok. Can you imagine this time of ours? Got imams on TikTok now. But that's a good thing, because he was talking about how if you are at a nikah and you have told this young lady that you will be she will be your one and only, right? Regardless of whether Islam offers you 3 more. If you agreed at that nikah to one, only her, and she then, 5 years down the line, you're going, but she's boring now, I want, and Islam allows me, you are breaking that contract with her. Because you agreed with her. It doesn't matter that 5 years down the line you are allowed Islamically. 5 years prior, you sat before the imam and you said, only her. And so in this instance, she is more than within her rights to break it with you, because you break the contract with her. And so what does that tell you? It's an integrity issue. It's your word. Tong het mos nie bini. Right? It het nie bini. So if you're gonna give your word to something, that is so important. I was infuriated one day when this one man said to me, yes, but if you knew your Islam, or if you knew the Quran, you wouldn't put those things in writing. Huh? You wouldn't put it in writing?
Why not?
I'm sorry, but you are not the caliber of man that the prophets were. So I am going to take your human frailty into account, and I'm going to put it in writing. I'm going to cross my T's and I'm going to dot my I's. Because you as a man, we need to decide upfront what our terms are. It's the same for any other kind of relationship. It would be the same if you and I engaged in business, right? If you wanted to put Cape Flats on the table and I brought MEB on the table, we would be very clear about where Cape Flats starts and MEB stops. We would almost be pedantic about it. Why don't we provide that same level of energy to relationship? We simply don't. And then you see the effects of this lack of foresight and this lack of integrity. You see years down the line, 2 generations down the line, when that couple splits, or one or both of them pass on, and they leave the offspring to now fight over whatever legacy it is they've left behind. Families have broken up because of nonsense like that.
And upset for years.
Upset for years.
For years. Over a house, over a car.
Yes,
over
because
10,000
auntie
rand.
so-and-so passed on, and then she said it's going to be a family house. Maar niemand het neergeskryf
Yeah.
what that means. Nobody said what it meant
Yes.
to have be a family house or whatever.
You've touched on a very interesting part of the conversation, so that we're going to turn a bit the conversation. We're going to get a bit heaty in my glasses. Already
More
standing up.
heated than we have been.
So the thing is this: we get married, but there's a lot of things that we don't talk about, right? We don't talk about what happens if we get divorced. Okay, we've now established that, but the bedroom, that's the conversation we don't have. And like you said, now people cheat because the wife feels that my husband is not satisfying me in many ways. Maybe hy maak nie die huis skoon nie, he doesn't bring his part. He might have money, but he's not really, giving me what it is that I want. So bedroom talks, I think, is very important. I always admire this bucket. It drives him to explain. It's a blue bucket, and the sticker on there is Olivia Gray, and I'm like, okay. Now one day I went to go look at Olivia Gray, and I said, okay, I love a 6 toys.
At the Cape Court,
Yes.
there's one branch. I don't know about other branches, but that you're 100% right. In the same way that you need to create beauty in your finances as a couple,
Yes.
spiritual life as a couple, the bedroom is very important.
Yes.
It's the glue that keeps the couple
Thank you.
intimate. If you stop engaging in intimacy, at some point you become roommates. And then once you're roommates and you're just taking care of the kids leave, and so
Yes.
now who are you left with? Your roommate? Your roommate is now a person you don't even recognize
Exactly.
anymore. So part of the ritual of being a couple is, yes, it's the sexual intimacy and being very blunt with one another about what it is that turns you on.
Yeah.
And what it is that doesn't turn you on. And then the willingness or the openness to explore all of that. Maybe you should get a sex therapist out here
I should
just to talk about the
Yes.
the dynamics of that, because I know it must be an uncomfortable conversation
It
for
is.
people to have.
It is, especially when you're married. That is the conversation where we are intimate, but we're not really talking what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
So I find that very ironic. And honestly, I've experienced it in my own relationships. I would more happily speak about the detail of what I found attractive or turn on with my girlfriends, with guys I had absolutely no long-term thoughts with. These are the sort of short-term interim guys in between. That would be fine. But my actual partner, it's almost as if I actually don't know what it is. There must be a psychology around it, but it's a barrier that we need to break. And if there are couples out there who are telling each other like the really nasty shit that they want to do to one another, and you are in relationship and you are in marriage, please share with us how it is you do this, because for some reason there are filters up and there are barriers up, and I don't know what it takes to infiltrate it. I mean, I'm getting to know that now in my now marriage, and it's hell of exciting, but it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable because this is a man that I adore. This is a man that's not on Pornhub, you know. This is a man that is somebody that I'm in awe of, and to kind of break it down and think get nasty with him or tell him how I'd like to get nasty with him is a little bit hard. So hard being the operative word. So we need to pass those barriers. I mean, he is the very best person to have this conversation with. Who else? But again, so here's something I want to touch on, and this is a very real issue in community globally, but particularly South Africa. Gender-based violence. So in my instance, the fact that I was raped all those years ago is something that now comes up. So initially in my two former relationships. It wasn't something that was really we deep dove on
Yeah.
because the intimacy in and of itself was lacking. But now that is a very important part of an agreement Robbie and I made up front. It's actually brought the rape that I experienced years ago to the table. So young men and women need to understand that we live in a society where the majority of us have been violated, boys and girls. And if you are going to engage in relationship, in fact, it's the very parents that force you into a marriage. It's that very mother that knows that your uncle touched you. And those are the things we don't discuss. Those are the things we shy away from. So now you push this young lady into relationship with another young man who has no cooking clue that you observed her be violated by her cousin, her uncle, her grandfather. And similarly for young boys, don't think it doesn't happen to the young boys. There are some vile women in our community. So when you do that, it is a recipe for disaster. Because those young people, I know from my own experience, I didn't talk about being raped until I got divorced the first time.
And then that's a couple of years ago.
That is exactly, that was 20 whatever. So now, I don't want to give away my age. but now it's like you have to talk about it. Because now the relationship I'm in is worth fighting for. It's the one that I do see him sitting ovally next to me when we're both 70.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that is the investment. That's the commitment you want to bring. And you want to bring that from the get-go because we don't want people getting divorced.
No, you said something very interesting now. And how do you know the partner that you have is the one worth fighting for? How do you know? Because you have people, right? So this is what I've learned over the years. They talk about the butterfly stages. Now, a lot of people want to stay in the butterfly stages, but it's when the butterfly stages are over when the real love starts.
You mean when you feel those butterflies?
Yes,
still?
that's the first
Okay.
when I kiss her. Oh, that was so nice. And then it is a couple of years later or months later when when the makeup comes off, the hair is not and the hair is not anymore so liquor, and she's in an old dress or something. It's when you see the real individual. That's when the real love actually starts. And I think that is where we lose one another. That is where the cheating starts because she doesn't do it anymore for myself. But she must also have to look at you because you're not also the guy that you used to be because you now not anymore muscular. You have a bit of a boob.
Yeah, your six-pack is gone.
It's gone. So you've also changed. But through all that, you need to learn to love one another. But how do you know that this person is worth fighting for?
Okay, so I'm gonna share something that my father told me years ago. He said the following: not only that bit about partners can make or break you. He said, in fact, family story. One of my cousins came over and he wanted to take a second wife.
Okay.
Right. I wanted to kill him. My father was willing to entertain the story, but my father said to him, and I recall him repeating it to my sister and I. He hasn't even experienced his wife yet. He said, when I married your mom, I didn't even have my preschool certificate. My mom's name is Amina, in Amina yet. In fact, now, 30 years later, however it was at that point, because I can't recall the timeline, he said, I'm just about making my matric certificate in her. Now, what men don't realize is that women evolve. Robbie married 12 different women on any given day. And the magic of that is that he will never be bored. But a man who himself hasn't actualized, who himself doesn't know who he is, will so easily want that one-dimensional version of him, that boyish teenage version of him, stroked by multiple other women. Because she's bored of that guy. She's bored of the teenager. She's bored of the little boy she saw throwing a tantrum. She's bored of the young adult that you still claim to be. She is now looking for the version of you that matches the version of her now. Because you both have the little girl, the teenager, the young adult, and the older adults as you've aged together. If you're not willing to see the evolution of that, then what the hell are you doing being married in the first instance? And again, why do we do this marriage thing? Because it's part of ticking some tick box social exercise to make us right in the world around us, to fit in. Wanneer gaan julle trou? You just about started dating, and heaven forbid you should now be in your late 20s or early 30s. Now it's like it becomes a thing. When you're going to get married? When you're going to? It's none of anybody's business.
Exactly.
Let the couple figure it out. The time the village comes into play is to determine the compatibility. Is my family on par with your family financially?
Yes.
If we're not, is the couple willing to bridge the gap? Whether it's the boy or the girl on the back foot. Is my family compatible with your family spiritually? If they're not, are the couple willing to bridge the gap? Etc., etc., in every aspect of life. Because that's the magic of it. But if you're not willing to add all those dimensions and those multiple layers, then come on, then you're not mature enough to tackle a relationship.
Exactly. There's a lot of money after the divorce that has to go into the divorce, where everybody has to pay. I feel that our parents taught us, when you get married in community of property, but I think that's also one of the biggest scams that they've taught us to get in community, because some people just get married for a few months, like I say, a few years, knowing that, you've got money, so we're going to get married, and when I leave you, half of yours is mine. How important is it for couples to consider a prenuptial?
Deathly important. Again, for multiple reasons. So consider this. How many of our elders, mine and yours, are financially strong? Very little. And if we take it to the Cape Flats, even less, right? How many of our family, our grandparents, left us a massive inheritance? What does that tell you? It tells you that they were on the back foot financially. Now they come together with two adults thinking two incomes are going to make some sort of legacy magic happen. It's possible, but the couple need to be financially savvy in order to do that. Then add to that, if their plans are business and all of those types of things, then prenups are probably safer, because you don't want to put the family's finances at jeopardy. You run your own business, right? You don't want your name attached in a community of property scenario or your wife's name attached if your company goes bust.
Yes.
So you need to put in those safety measures in order to safeguard your family. A lot of people think that the moment you bring up a prenup, it's because you've already planned to get divorced, or you already are not thinking that we're a couple and that you don't want to sign a prenup because you feel like the guy doesn't trust you, the girl doesn't trust you. How on earth is that even a thought? If you are contracting up front.
Exactly.
I sat with my first divorce. I sat in an attorney's office with a young lady who was about to be married. She's listening to my entire horror story, right? Play by play. Play by play, because she's going to be my defending attorney. And she said she's getting married. I go, oh, mashallah, because of course I'm an incurable romantic and I love the fact that there's about to be a marriage and a wedding. And I go, and your contract, have you signed your contract? And she goes, why would I do that? Ek het amper aantal gekry. I was like, what do you mean you didn't? What? You're an attorney.
That's right.
You're a smart woman. I don't understand. How have you not written something down? Oh my gosh. So, needless to say, young gentlemen, my daughters are beautiful, but my legacy is not for you to inherit.
Exactly.
My contract is very clear and my will is even tighter. So we need to discuss these things. And look, I tried for about a decade to get my family to discuss these things. It was hard. Why would my parents ever share their financial woes with me? Why would my parents ever share their financial mistakes with me? We don't even talk about that stuff.
No.
It's not dinner table conversation.
Yeah.
And then because it's not dinner conversation in your home, how are you possibly going to recreate that in a future home with a partner? So we need to get very real very quickly with our children and ourselves.
And that's part of our leaving a legacy behind, leaving a wealth behind, because I might be working hard today for my children to have a better life in yourself.
Yeah.
And then some idiot comes and get married to my daughter.
Brings a chomp.
Yeah, brings her chomp, and
Oh.
then he's now married in community property. Everything that I worked for.
And she's in love.
She's in love. Daddy, this guy is for me.
Oh my
You get
God,
married.
that is amazing. And
And then everything that I worked for.
there goes all your houses.
Yes. And especially not to a guy that's going to do the same to the next person. And that's why
100%.
we need to protect ourselves. We need to make sure that once we get married, okay, I'm going to be honest. When I got married, I had nothing, and my wife had nothing. So we in this together. So I am married in community property, but the next marriage, God forbid, I won't get married in community property. But the thing is this.
His wife didn't hear that.
The thing is
next
this.
marriage.
The thing is this. I was one of those guys that wanted to get married
Yeah.
because I wasn't educated. I didn't have the knowledge I have now. So it's okay to make a mistake. You know?
Yes.
I'm not gonna. I don't think. I don't know.
Listen, community of property is not a death knell,
Yeah.
because it's like you say, the two of you were equally yoked when you got married. You
Exactly.
were equally broke,
Yes.
and you equally decided you were going to build, right?
Yes.
So that is a partnership made in heaven on that
Yeah,
aspect. I
yeah.
don't know about your intimacy and all that other thing. However, a community of property doesn't it doesn't disadvantage you,
Yeah.
because there are other legal mechanisms like trusts and PTY limiteds and whatever you can put into force and effect in order to protect yourself. So that is not the end of the road.
Exactly.
But it also takes the couple to now go and learn. And here's the other thing. So you know how we spend a lot of time learning about business and all the aspects of business and plowing our time and resources into it. How much of that do you spend to your relationship? How many podcasts do you listen to make your marriage and your relationship better?
True.
Very little. And then we frown. So Robbie and I, we were in our honeymoon phase, still are, but we went to a relationship coach very early on.
Nice.
And she sat with us. I always forget her, Estella, Christella, whatever her name was. And we sat on the couch in front of her, and she said, "So you're not mad at one another?" And we looked at her, we giggled, because we were holding hands and we were all giggly and whatever. This is pre-marriage. And she said, "I don't understand. Why are you not mad at each other now again?" So it was mind-blowing for her that there was a couple before her who decided to get the tools to be better together before shit hit the fan.
Awesome.
And that's
They made plans before.
that's the point, isn't it?
Proactive.
Exactly. You can't go into, I mean, clearly I suck at relationship. Clearly. I've had
I didn't say anything.
two divorces. I mean, when was I ever going to say 2 divorces in my lifetime? And I'm small. I'm little.
Did you feel it one time after the 2 divorces? It's over now. I'm not going to worry
Yes.
about the man again. I had enough.
100%.
I had enough of these fuckers.
I mean, I don't know about the sex. Like that I'll keep doing, but an actual relationship? Hell no. So, and I wasn't. And then Robbie's very smart. Because I think he understood that I was twice bitten, 1,000 times shy. And he sort of infiltrated slowly.
Okay.
He had the patience
Strategy.
to get to know me. He in fact volunteered himself when I would want to do harebrained things. I come up with a lot of harebrained things. I wanted to go skydiving. I wanted to go hot air ballooning. And then I started moaning about these asshole men who just want to just Netflix and chill.
Arme Robbie.
And Robbie agreed. He said, "Oh, well, you've never asked anybody.
Yeah.
I'm available."
Yeah.
And then I said, "Okay, bugger, I'll ask you every time I come up with a harebrained ideas." And then incidentally, that's how he infiltrated my life. We've learned to dance together. We've learned to skydive together. He didn't do the hot air ballooning. That was the part where I moaned to him about it. And so he's somebody that I'm growing with. Sometimes you had baie comments gevat hy dag for the skydiving, particularly for him. I was there, but he was like, "Oh shit." And then a 12-year-old girl incidentally got his ego ahead of me because she was there to skydive. And then
Okay.
he was like, oh, I must skydive.
Yeah, I can't.
Otherwise, I can't send the 12-year-old with Faatin. I'm going to go with Faatin.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
But it showed me that this guy, and he showed up, no? For every dance lesson, it was
Yes,
on a
sir.
Wednesday evening. He was there on time.
Nice, Robbie.
You know, and that's the part about. So for me, I always encourage young people to observe what the person does, because again, tonge tibini. So they've got to back up their words with their actions. If he said he was going to come to your house at 6 o'clock to pick you up, was he there at? Do you know that my first husband was late for our nikah? I should have not gone through with it then.
It was a sign then.
It was a huge sign. Time is an integrity issue. If you can't be on time, which is like the simplest thing to do, then what the hell are you? Then you waterig and everything else.
But talking about waterig, and we're coming to the end of our show.
Okay.
Robbie is obviously a Christian,
Yes.
and you are Muslim.
Yes.
And you recently went on Umrah, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, mashallah. Ek dink dat jy sê, né?
Yes.
And so
Umrah Makbul.
Okay. And so how does this affect your relationship?
So that's a layered one, because now already we've lost all the slums on this show. They're looking at me going, you did what? You married who? So I made nikah with Robbie,
Okay.
which in and of itself was controversial.
Yeah.
Asked my mum, she was very upset.
Mm-hmm.
She made all the noises she needed to make to be eventually okay with it, because she said what she needed to say. I found an imam, and I can imagine it's probably an imam on the outskirts of Cape Town, willing to make nikah with a Muslim woman, non-Muslim man. So it was difficult for me because I grew up in a very conservative Muslim home, and it was something I needed to obviously make a lot of dua about and a lot of be okay with in my soul.
Yeah.
But another Ramadan was looming, and I was having sex with Robbie. And so that was not somehow sitting well with my soul, because, zina. And I needed to make nikah with him. So I approached a few imams, and I found one who was willing to make, don't ask me who.
Like
Poor guy comes under a lot of flack already. Love him to bits.
Yeah, awesome.
And he made nikah with us, but his requirement of Robbie was, would you prevent Faatin from living her deen? Would you prevent her from fully actualizing her relationship with Allah? And of course Robbie would say no, because he wouldn't impede me from being anything other than my fully actualized self, which is part of why we work. And with him, I've got no desire to convert Robbie.
Yeah.
I've got no desire to have him be Muslim unless he gets that hidayah from Allah and he comes to Islam by himself. Now, I can demonstrate Islam to him, and I have not been the very best example. I have veered so far from Islam and come back, and veered and come back, partly for my own trauma reasons, and I've waved my fist at Allah often. But now, it wasn't just the Umrah where I found a renewed respect for my deen, but now, having gone for Umrah, I can see how, unless you're committed to the growing of this relationship, it could have been something that could have broken us, because there is an element of I have this feeling of love for Islam, particularly now that there's genocide all over the world and the Palestinians are coming under fire, and so my passion for my deen is apparent. And of course my ibadah is all the more now. And I mean, obviously I can make dua for Rabbi. And I do. His name was repeated often when I was touching the cloth at the Kaaba. But and I cry because it's that deep, you know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop us from loving one another, and I can only fully be me with him.
Yes.
I was married to 2 Muslim men, and they were awful, abusively awful. And I say that not as an indictment on all Muslim men, but I happen to have found my bliss, my cloak of comfort in him.
Wow.
And that's what marriage is described as in the Quran. So, Alhamdulillah, I'm very happy with my decision. I still am very happy with my decision. And obviously, you can leverage whatever you like in my direction, but I am steadfast in my belief that this is, and it gives me comfort.
But Faatin, also just to end off, like
Yes.
when you love someone, you don't love somebody for the religion, and that is what I think. You love somebody for the person.
Yes. But also remember, the person is very, very, very intimately connected to their belief and their values and their principles. So I have seen Robbie live Islamic principles more intensely than the 2 Muslim men that I was married to. And so that sounds odd and a little bit of an indictment on the other 2. But the point I'm trying to make is, I'm waiting if Allah brings him to the Shahada. If it doesn't happen, then that's obviously between him and Allah. But I am comforted that he is being the best he can be in that spiritual space. Because remember, the magic happens not just spiritually, physically, financially, all of that, mentally, mental health-wise, all of that.
But if he makes you get up in the morning, if he makes you being out there, if he makes you feel good
Pokes
about
me for
yourself,
Fajr, 100%, 100%.
So there is what
Aren't you supposed to make Maghrib?
Yes,
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing about finding the right person. I think it's all about finding the right person. What happens now?
So this thing about finding the right person, I like how you say it, because you say it passionately, but it also feeds into that fairy tale, right? So you find the right person for now. Remember, my 23-year-old self thought I found the right person, and then thought I found the right person. So there's also that level of commitment required to see this through. But the right person, your compatibility criteria, that's why I'm intrigued by arranged marriages. Because I think they kind of eliminate a lot of the BS ahead of time.
Yes.
You know, they tick all the boxes and then they put the right fits together. And they give you a couple of options of a right fit, and then you just choose the one you have got the most chemistry with.
Okay.
So, are we out of time?
Yeah, we're actually running out of time. The manager's looking at me over there.
Cleaning out.
Faatin, I want to say thank you so much. It was
Most
very, very
welcome.
informative. And I think we need to talk more about relationships, because that's like you say, we study our business, we do well in our business. But the thing that actually keeps us, that's supposed to motivate us, like yourself in the mornings when you get up, when you wake up next to Robbie, is the things that we should be also treasuring, you know, looking at our relationships and how can we fix it. Because many of our parents and grandparents, they just thought, you know, we're living and we're putting up with with the person next to us, but they never thought of, you know, loving one another for life and enjoying life.
Or me being invested in you being your very best self,
There we go.
and vice versa. But look, also there were obviously circumstances around it in terms of survival and all of that. But a lot of us are not in that space anymore. We're not just living to survive.
Yeah.
So there is the possibility to create more magic out of it. I think when I talk this way, maybe some people glaze over because like, how do I even start?
Yeah.
So you and I, having created the day that we walked together and then got to know one another, that was part of us creating magic just between you and I and the evolution of this relationship. It's the same with couples.
It's a process also.
100%. It's a constant evolution. It's not going to be the same 5 years ago what it is now. I mean, gosh, now Arama Robbie's got 2 teenage daughters. Initially, it was just me he had to contend with. Now he's got teenage daughters who are equally opinionated. That's a whole other complexity to the relationship. So, yeah.
Faatin, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything you want to say? Are there people can follow you? How do they get in
Oh
contact with
gosh.
you?
So you'll put all the links down on
we'll-
the
I'll see the link
in the caption.
just now.
But yeah, all I wanted to say is that magic is possible. Like if you were willing to live into the possibilities of making life vital and amazing and goosebumpy every day, if you woke up with that absolute belief, if you held on to that, regardless of circumstances, you are more than 80% of the way to the sheeple that are following.
Thank you so much, Faatin. And to the uncles out there and the aunties, be romantic this
Yes.
Valentine's Day.
Flowers. Open the door
But
again.
also, Faatin, men also want flowers. Do you think?
Yes, don't worry.
Buy me flowers. I'll
Or
take it.
chocolates.
Yeah, chocolates.
Edible
for-
underwear.
Yes.
Do what you must.
Yes, be liquor.
Take one for the team. Do what you have to do.
There we go. Faatin Bux. You guys can follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And do send a message from time to time if you guys feel she's very good with counseling.
So I did Delightful Divorce for some while. You'll find that page on Facebook too. I've been counseling couples who want to get divorced since 2017. It's been that long.
Wow.
Encouraging them not to do what I've done
Yeah.
and do differently and better and smarter.
The lesson, it wasn't a mistake. The lesson that she's learned, she's passing it over to others now. So that is us for tonight. Guys, thank you so much. Please share this live. It's unedited, it's not cut, it is live. And we want people to know more about relationships. We want to touch the heart of men and women out there to be different, to be nice, to love one another.
We want the
Just
homes to be peaceful.
Yes. Liquor, man. Just liquor. Love.
liquor, 100%.
No, just one last thing. You don't see men hugging their wives in the house anymore or holding or dancing. We need to bring that back into the house. Skink vir jou 'n glas rooi wyn. Ek los nie die black label af, but skink 'n glas rooi wyn. Just have a nice conversation.
But
And then just have a liquor thing, have chemistry going. But cheers, guys. Until we speak next week again.